This is the moment an Israeli tank shell struck a group of journalists in southern Lebanon on October 13. The strikes killed Reuters journalist Issam Abdallah and wounded 6 other reporters. The journalists from Reuters, Agence France-Presse, and Al Jazeera were there covering cross-border shelling by the Israeli military in response to attacks by Lebanese Hezbollah militants in the wake of the October 7 attack on Israel by Hamas.
We're very clearly 7 well-marked journalists in press vests with helmets, with a car that has TV on it, standing in an open area in the face of an Israeli military site. So, I mean, they knew we were there.
A Reuters investigation has found an Israeli tank crew killed Issam Abdallah and wounded the other reporters by firing 2 shells in quick succession from inside Israel. We gathered evidence from the scene.
There appears to be a crater on the floor.
We also examined hours of video footage from 8 media outlets who were in the area at the time and reviewed hundreds of photos, including high-resolution satellite images. Independent Research Institute, the Netherlands Organization for Applied Scientific Research, TNO, analyzed the material for Reuters at its laboratories in The Hague. TNO's key findings? A large piece of metal from the scene was the tail fin of a 120mm tank round made by an Israeli weapons manufacturer and fired from a smoothbore tank gun positioned just across the border.
It's just behind the UN blue line.
TNO's report is consistent with allegations by Lebanon that the Israeli military was responsible for the deadly attack.
I believe that it is in the military strategy of Israel to kill journalists so they kill the truth.
Asked about the findings of the investigation, the Israel Defense Forces international spokesman, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Hex, said, "We don't target journalists." International humanitarian law bars attacks on journalists who have the full scope of protection granted to civilians and cannot be considered military targets. Reuters editor-in-chief Alessandra Goloni condemned Abdallah's killing.
And we call on Israel to explain how this could have happened and to hold to account those responsible for his death and for the wounding of our colleagues Thayer al-Sudani and Maher Nazeh.
Since the Gaza war broke out, Israeli forces and Iranian-backed Hezbollah have traded fire on an almost daily basis across the border. On October 13, reports of armed fighters attempting to infiltrate into Israel from Lebanon and subsequent cross-border shelling drew reporters from multiple news organizations to the area around the village of Alma al-Chaab. Abdallah took this video moments before his death. It shows reporters standing on a hilltop in an open area. They were clearly identified as journalists. Reuters reporter Maher Nazeh was there.
احنا اختارنا هذا المكان أول شيء لأنه بعيد يعني على المكان القصف، ثاني شيء مكشوف، وثالث شيء حتى نبين إنه احنا صحفيين واحنا ما كنا لحالنا، يعني احنا كنا 7 أشخاص مع 3 سيارات ولابسين دروعة والسيارات كلها عليها TV، يعني احنا اللي على مسافة 10 كيلو ممكن يميزون إنه احنا صحفيين، وهذا بالنسبة أمن إلنا.
The IDF did not respond to questions about whether it was aware that the crew had clearly identified themselves as journalists. Once set up, Reuters started feeding live footage to its clients. The AFP and Al Jazeera teams were also broadcasting live. After filming for 45 minutes, the Reuters team turned the camera to focus on an Israeli military outpost about 2 kilometers away. Less than 90 seconds later, a tank round smashed into Abdallah, killing him instantly and knocking out the Reuters live feed. "37 seconds later, a second round smashed into Al Jazeera's car, setting it ablaze.
You can see the direction in which the wall has caved in.
The conclusions reached by TNO scientists rely on 3 key pieces of evidence: the aluminum tail fin from the tank shell that was found near Abdallah's body, previously unpublished video from Italian broadcaster Rai, which showed the second strike, and the audio from both rounds taken from Al Jazeera's live feed.
We can combine that with the speed of sound and determine the firing distance. The three key findings of our investigation are that the two shots were fired from the same position. We were able to narrow down the type of ammunition, which is a 120mm tank round, and through triangulation we were able to determine the firing point, which is just behind the UN blue line.
The blue line is a demarcation line drawn by the United Nations in 2000 that separates Israel from Lebanon. Military experts told Reuters the only tanks in the area with 120mm smoothbore guns are Israel's Merkava tanks. There's no record of Hezbollah operating tanks with 120mm weapons. And the biggest tank guns the Lebanese army has are 105mm.
عصام احنا ما ممكن نراجعه صراحة. عصام راح، ولكن هو يسمعنا ويشوفنا وينتظر من عندنا انه احنا نقدم له شيء. نقدم له مو فد شيء مادي ولا نقدم له انه نفضح هذول اللي ضربوه واللي قتلوه للعالم، وانه يعترفون انه هم استهدفوه. هاي الرسالة الوحيدة اللي احنا ممكن نبعثها لعصام، اللي ممكن هو يرتاح فيها إله والأهل.
خلصت 12 ونص
الأقل بالجزيرة.
مرحبا جميعا. بحب رحب بالجميع واتشكر الصحفيين. Israel is obligated to investigate and hold members of its military accountable for this crime. On the other, the Lebanese authorities also have a duty to investigate the attack that killed one of their own nationals and to make the technical report that they produced public. In terms of an international court that can prosecute this crime as a war crime, unfortunately, neither Lebanon nor Israel are signatories to the Rome Statute, which means we're not members of the International Criminal Court. Should Lebanon sign onto the Rome Statute, and this is a call that we've been making on the Lebanese government for years now, then the ICC would have jurisdiction to investigate this attack.
First strike, they started to film the location of the strike, and they actually captured.
Simply serve as a witness to what happened. So, on October the 13th, my colleague Christina Assi.
But I'm not an investigator. I'm not a human rights lawyer. I'm a journalist. And I'm here today to simply serve as a witness to what happened.
Nothing can silence us. Thank you.
There was no military activity near us. We didn't hear any outgoing fire from the Lebanese side. Just before 6 p.m., we turned our cameras towards the west. The sun was setting. There was smoke, and then boom, we were hit. It came out of nowhere.
Thank you so very much. I want to take a moment to salute Issam's family and friends in the room. None of this will bring Issam back. None of this will heal the massive hole that has been left by his loss, which I could speak for hours and days and weeks at a time, and it would not be enough to describe everything that Issam was to us individually, as his friends, and meant to the Bureau. Issam was a reporter, he was a friend, he was a brother who lived life with passion, integrity, diligence, and love. He took care of us in the Bureau and outside of the Bureau every single day. He made us proud, and he made us better journalists, and we remember and honor him every single day.
And Simon, I can only start with the same thing, which is expressing my own deep felt condolences for their loss and for your loss. And like David, I have extraordinary admiration for the men and women in your profession who every day around the world, in the most dangerous places in the world, are trying to bring the facts, the stories to other people. And that too is more important than ever. As someone who actually started his career as a journalist, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. And my respect and my admiration for everyone in the profession, but especially those who put their lives on the line to bring stories to the rest of the world, that really knows no bounds. So I'm deeply sorry for this loss. And it is important and appropriate that it be fully and thoroughly investigated. My understanding is that Israel has initiated such an investigation, and it will be important to see that investigation come to a conclusion and to see the results of the investigation.
I'm not familiar with these specific reports, but of course the guiding principle of Israel's campaign against Hamas is that we uphold the principles of international law regarding proportionality, necessity, distinction. We target Hamas, we do not target civilians, and we've been doing everything possible to get civilians out of harm's way while we go after the terror monsters who perpetrated the October 7th massacre.